let me say thanks to Beverly and everybody here for inviting me. I hope I am inspirational. I've never actually had that lead before, but I'll try to live up to it. So before we jump into it, head into the first slide. Before we jump into it, let me first give 2 confessions. Actually 3. One, I love cats. I hope you guys do. There's lots of cats in this. It's a pretty funny picture too. I'm not sure if I secured the rights to this one. 2, I love animated GIFs. So I layered a bunch in. But my 3rd confession is that I didn't know Keynote doesn't handle animated GIFs very well. So we're going to learn a little bit today. I'm going to learn with you on whether or not the first frame of animated GIFs is actually funny. And if it's not, I will do my best to narrate what would have happened had the GIF actually animated. So let me walk you through what we saw is the future of design at Mashable. What we thought was the future of design, what the future of what screens those designs would appear on, and then since we're in the media business and it's going gangbusters, which how do you make money at it, which is really important, right? So we'll wrap those all together throughout this presentation, and I'll kind of lead you through what we were thinking as we thought about the new Mashable, how we'd react to these themes, and then try to get ahead of them as well. So first, future of design. Oops, there we go. We got a little glimpse of the first frame. Mashable is an extremely social site. We have an article tweeted every second. Which is phenomenal, right? We love it. But what that means is we're constantly looking at social networks and seeing how they're adapting. So here's what a shared article looks like on Facebook. A lot of you see this. It's very text heavy. The image is very small. And this is how it makes me feel. Because it needs to be bigger images. This is a great one, right? Kind of the new look of Facebook, big fat images, besides a very smart response, a visual response to something that was happening, trying to own that meme. And it made me kind of feel like that. So first of all, the first 2 animated GIFs actually worked out pretty well. Yeah. Cindy told me just to roll with it. So I'm rolling, Cindy. Rolling. So great. So why did they do it, right? So here's the industry reason why they did it. Engagement against photos is 2 times as good, right? So that's great. That's why they did it. So at Mashable, we see something even more extreme than that. When we share an article with just a photo and the URL of that article in the caption field, that gets 8 times as many clicks as sharing the article like you saw in the first frame. So there's something to that. And here's kind of my stab at why, right? Information's processed extremely fast. I would defer to some of the folks on this panel who've done a lot of research on this, but look, our brains understand pictures. That's how we've been designed. Posts with videos attract 3 times as many inbound links. Other people love visuals, right? Images or videos. And of course, mobile video viewing has increased dramatically. So these are all great signs. Look, we're getting more visual. Here's what we used to look like, which kind of makes me feel like, it actually almost goes through this like, which is, so here's what we look like now. So the future of the web, future of design is getting much more visual, right? So we took that in mind when we made the new Mashable. So we're looking at big, huge images because they drive more clicks. And the truth is, this drove more clicks. In month to month, the month we launched versus the next month, or the month before we launched versus the month we launched in, we saw a 100% increase in traffic moving from the homepage to articles. And it could be other things. We actually improved our images and all those sorts of things, signed a big deal with Getty and other folks to get great images, right? And that helps. But really taking advantage of those big fat images drives clicks. Yeah, this one didn't really translate. It's kind of going, yeah. All right, so that's the future of design in a nutshell. So let's look at the screens on which these designs are going to appear. Here's where I started. This is kind of dating me. All of you probably know how old I am right now. So in 7th grade, I had my Apple II, actually an Apple IIe, green monitor, boots to a command prompt. I learned how to program, and I guess the rest is history. It's a great computer. And here's where kind of PCs are now. They're really going into a tailspin. So I think everybody probably knows what age this one was, right? Raise your hand if you do. Yeah, you see, so this is Dawson's Creek weeping, which is great. So here's what people are doing. They're buying these sorts of, oh, no, this one's frozen. Anyway. Like a little Futurama flash. So, we're in this together, it's an experience. So where are all those dollars going that we're spending, right? I think everybody in this room knows, because they probably have a smartphone or a tablet in their pocket, or a number of them at home. I think I'm on my 7th tablet by now, which is kind of crazy, they're stacking up. But tablet sales, top 100 million, smartphone owners, now the majority. And the good news is, at least for those of us in the news industry, is that people are using these devices to read the news. And they're reading the news all the time. At Mashable, we see our site heavily used by laptops and desktops during the workday. On the commutes, we're seeing a lot of smartphone usage. And late nights and on the weekends, tablet usage just soars. So it's interesting. So these devices are really kind of part of who we are, and they're almost time slicing our day. This would be hopefully what you guys look like at the end. They're all standing up and cheering, which is good news. So here's the other good news, but I'll lead it with bad news. So for publishers trying to get into mobile apps, they're going to find out very quickly that it's very expensive, which is why most of them opt for RSS readers, basically kind of site clones, which are fine, they're okay, but they're not unique. And I think you really have to have a unique product plus unique content to really get your users to be sticky. So this is good news for folks like Mashable, where we see news consumers actually preferring the web over native apps on mobile devices 3-to-1. This is actually an industry stat that we're just taking advantage of. So we focused all of our attention on web, and you'll see how. Oh, this was a great one. So you have to take my word for it, and if you come and grab me after this, it's actually a dog with a stick in his mouth, and he tries to get through that door. And he can't get the stick through. Anyway, so here's the problem, and really what that's symbolizing is that there are thousands of screens out there that people use. And the reason I say that is at Mashable, and you could have seen this on an earlier slide, we, on an average month, we see 2,800 different unique device profiles. So, that's a little bit exaggerated because it's different patch levels and all those sorts of things, different operating systems. But we see the entire spectrum, 320 pixels all the way up to cinema displays that are insanely large. So we have to build for these devices. So the only solution is responsive web design. So how did we do it? So we have this big fat visual page, and this is about 1440 pixels wide right here. It looks nice. You can see a visual hierarchy between the two. And the site itself actually responds across all devices. And the way that we do this, if you want to get kind of under the hood, so to speak, and I won't get too technical here, but we actually deliver to every single user the same HTML and JavaScript. It's super, super simple because the site has to be extremely fast on mobile devices or users just give up. So we send down the same package of HTML that is basically just raw. If you want to see it, go to a browser, turn off JavaScript, and try to load Mashable, and you'll see it. In fact, if our images annoy you, that's a good way to read Mashable. So it's completely flat. And then we have another JS library that we built on top of, if there's engineers here, built on top of Backbone, that actually senses what device the user's on, what the characteristics are, both touch and non-touch, as well as size, and then beautifies the screen, or the presentation, as it sees fit. This kind of simplifies a bit, because there's 3 hero devices, as we would call them. We planned for about 6, and then actually drew up on our boards the growth patterns in between. And it's kind of a nightmare. If you've done a responsive site, it's a lot of work, and it's really hard. It's really hard to deliver the same payloads to smartphones that you deliver to desktops. But if you pull it off, you will have an extremely fast site on desktops and on mobiles. And that's really what matters. So the next question is, now that I have this site that is very visual and it's very responsive, right? Because we're seeing tons of devices and everybody clicks on things if they're visual. So now the big problem is, well, how do I place data on this page? How do I know what stories to put around the page, right? Classic response is, well, my editors do it. They have intuition, which is great. We have editors too, and they have intuition, and they know a lot more than computers do sometimes, right? So at Mashable, we really think that, A being what we feel is the most social site on the web, we really need to understand how articles are shared. So putting it kind of simplistically, or trying to be eloquent for a CTO, the internet is our world and its currency is engagement, right? So what we did when I came on board at Mashable 2 years ago is we started thinking about this whole world of the social web that has articles, and articles have some level of engagement. That seems to me to be a lot like the stock market, where an article is kind of similar to a stock, and the currency at which it's valued is really engagement, right? It's shares, it's comments, it's tweets, it's likes, it's all those sorts of things. So that's what we began doing, actually. We went out and hired a bunch of people from financial institutions, and we started actually modeling how the social web works. Oh, this was a great one. It's a great one where Seinfeld were there, hitting the brakes. Anyway, so what I was gonna say here really is that, it's kind of crazy to some people that a media company would actually engage in complex engineering. And if you walk away with 1 point from what I'm saying today, let it be that media companies should do real engineering. They really have to. They can't relegate all of their engineering to tech startups. We should work with tech startups, we should work with others, we should do all these sorts of things, but media companies need to become more technologically savvy and control their own destinies. For us, it's all about understanding sharing. For other companies, it could be something else. But we, put on our swimming suits and dove straight in on this one. And we created what we call Velocity. And what Velocity does is it sends out a system of crawlers that hit Facebook, Google+, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all the major social sites, and we watch all published articles. We bring all that data back and dump it into a proprietary predictive engine that we created over the summer, and it actually predicts what the level of engagement will be in 4 hours to 8 hours, 4 to 8, somewhere. Which is pretty cool. Right? So that's what we need to understand. So what we did with it is we spun up a really cool dashboard for our editors so that they can see what's about to go viral, so they can cover it. So hopefully when you guys go to Mashable.com, you say, well, how did they know this was going to be viral? Or why do they always seem like they're ahead of the game? Well, one of the reasons is because of Velocity. And here's a funny story. I'm probably going to go over here, so Bev is going to give you 30 minutes. So here's a funny story. So when we first developed it and we went into alpha, it was just Pete Cashmore and myself, and the rest of my team that was alpha testing it. And we sent the crawlers out, and they came back and told us that the Facebook page of the local Walmart in Kodiak, Alaska was about to go viral. And we're like, this thing's totally broken. So we actually didn't even, we saw it, we kind of stepped back, Pete and I laughed, and we went back and traced the code and said, well, something's wrong here. Spent a few days, and then we read on Mashable, actually, that you'd think we'd have better connections. We read on, super secret project and all that, right? So we read on Mashable, actually, that Walmart had actually started a contest. You guys may remember this from the summer. Walmart had actually started a contest with the hip hop artist Pitbull. And you know, the internet hates Pitbull. So when the contest was announced, Reddit flew into action, and you know, Walmart said they're going to send Pitbull to whichever location gets the most likes. So all the Redditors and various other people, including probably a lot of people from Mashable, I would guess, confidentially, friendly, went to this particular Facebook page and liked it. And of course, you know, the funny thing is Pitbull was a good sport about it, and he actually went to Kodiak, Alaska, which was great, right? But it worked. So we kind of jumped up and down and said, wow, we kind of did something, which is neat, which was good, because I was kind of like, thought I'd get fired if it didn't work. So we dog fooded it. We said, okay, so great, it's a dashboard. You know, our editors have intuitions and stuff too, so we don't know if velocity works or it doesn't, right? So what we did is we actually stepped back, and we used to be a WordPress site on the front end. We stepped back and said, you know what, we're going to build a whole custom, and this may sound like overkill, a whole custom Ruby on Rails app that's going to serve up all of our content, but it's going to be built with velocity at its core. And as of this moment, and in fact, as of December 4th last year, Mashable homepage, channel pages, right column on articles, all of it is algorithmically driven. So it's all driven by this velocity algorithm, which goes out, predicts how each of our stories is going to do, and then layers it out. So we're kind of algorithmically picking our winners and our losers. Now the truth is, the reason I say it's 95% is because you can't run a news operation by algorithms, right? It just doesn't work. So what we do is we give kill switches and quick promote switches. When we break a story, it doesn't have any history, so it needs to be promoted up. And that's how it can be managed by our managing editor. But the truth is, the whole site's algorithmically driven. And it's fun to watch. So the key here is, and you know, this is how I feel, at least on the product side, and my team, by the way, is product managers, designers, and engineers. We all sit in the same area. We all attend the same startups. And designers have to hear about, you know, n levels of coding depth. And engineers now can talk about font and type and kerning, which kind of scares them a little bit, but they're getting good at it. So let technology make humans better. So great. So we dog fooded it. You know, the site's built on it. We have an interesting design. But another thing that when media companies start engineering and start really thinking about UX built from the ground up and user experience, not only UI, but you know, what is the content that's going to be consumed, or what's kind of the stickiness, right? Oh no, go ahead. So we thought, okay, so now we have this cool thing. What should we do with it? And then, of course, these things were launched. So we're kind of dorky, just like everybody else, right? So we thought, hey, let's actually stop doing real work and build a Google Glass app. So we did. And we kind of surprised Google because they didn't think we would. So this is actually just a screen. You know, we used a dog because we thought we might push forward the thesis that dogs might be more viral than cats. So we pushed the dog. We actually put Google Glass. This is my old one that actually broke. They're still not happy with me about that. But so when you sign up for the app, what happens is when Velocity detects something about to go viral, it tunes a message down, and you see it right in your visor, which is pretty cool. And you can choose to have it read aloud right in your ear through the bone conduction speaker, which is pretty neat. So it gets to a few different points. One is, when media companies do real engineering, they get to explore new possibilities that no one else has, right? They get to build differentiators, and they get to design them however they want, because they're not held back by fitting to somebody else's template. Oh, this was a great one too. This is Jackie Chan giving a thumbs up. All right, so now we've gone through future of design, future of the screens, of course, the smallest being here, which we've chosen to just have stories read aloud rather than forcing people to try to read in these little visors. Let's go into, quickly, how do we actually make money? And see, the dog kind of got with it, right? Getting a little viral. So here, I'm only going to cover two, responsive ads and native ads. So responsive ads. You saw this picture before? The way that we really like to work with clients now is let's build you ads that actually fit with the site. They will ebb and flow with whatever browser the user's on across whatever device. That's hard to do. Not build the ads, but convince clients that that's what they want to do, advertising-wise. So it's very tricky, right? If anybody's attempted, I see a couple nods out there. It's really hard to get clients there. They will get there in time. I think there'll be a few of us trying to pull them there at first, but it will happen. Native advertising, buzzword all over the place. There's like 77 different sessions on it in Internet Week. This is what the web used to look like, right? With all of these banner ads and whatnot. Oh, this was the best one. So the baby's looking in, freeze that man. We'll post them. And here's what it looks like now, right? So at least on Facebook and Twitter. Media companies are just starting to play with what does native advertising look like for them. We know what it looks like for the social networks. And it's pretty smart. It's basically brands creating messages that are native to that platform and distributing them. Which makes them feel like this, and they were screaming. Here's what native advertisement looks like on media companies, but specifically on Mashable. So we know that big fat images get people to click, so we make big, huge images for our native content. We write stories that the readers want to read. And we do that with the clients on board by actually getting together with those clients ahead of time and not letting clients write it, but actually writing it ourselves by agreeing on a theme, right? So we'll work with, and I'm just gonna throw out a random example, BMW, and we will say, hey, let's they wanna launch a new model, it's all about innovation and technology in that car, so we'll say, hey, let's write 10 articles on the most innovative things, right? Startup CEOs, you can see my bias already, let's cover CTOs. X, Y, and Z, right? And that's it. The brands don't get to edit, nothing like that, because media companies know their audience, right? And a good part of user experience is creating a product that is consumable and enjoyable to consume or useful to consume. And it's actually all about, the true heart of UX, it's all about creating products that can actually survive because they make money. And they can pay people who work at them so they don't work somewhere else. And because it's real content, actually, and this is, I think, an interesting note that media companies are more than just their .coms, right? And our user experience, in a sense, just because we can't design what Facebook looks like, even though we talked about the right ways to share, the most efficient ways to share, we still control that whole experience that happens off-site. And in fact, you can monetize that as well, as long as, at Mashable, the Mashable writers are actually writing the content, we'll promote it as well. And this is how we actually promote our custom content around the site. So you'll notice there isn't a big fat banner ad, there isn't a 300 by 250, which I'm sure everybody here has had to place somewhere on a page. Maybe one that grows to 600. And those are great, and they have their purpose, right? But we made a native advertisement that actually kind of fits with the site, right? It tells you that it's sponsored, right? This is sponsored right here. It has a line, a gray line underneath. But since it's actually content that's created by our editors, it can actually be promoted right in the content stream. Okay, so now we know native content, we know all that stuff, responsive ads. What's next? How do we actually kind of take a leap and figure out what's next in the monetization side? You guys watched the Super Bowl, lights went out, right? We've all seen this example. You can still dunk in the dark, fantastic. Real-time marketing, pushed out to Facebook, pushed out to Twitter. Actually had 16,000 or over 16,000 retweets on Twitter, I believe. So it's phenomenal response. But that's more than a home run. That's something that's really hard to replicate. But what it is actually a really good example of how brands spend a lot of money. 13 people did this, by the way. Which is a lot. How many UX folks could have done this in 20 minutes, right? I'm kidding. Just kidding, Oreo. We love you as an advertiser. You know, a lot of brands are spending a lot of money on their social media content, a lot of money, and they're putting very creative people on it. So what's happening to display ads? We're seeing CPMs being decreased. We're seeing them run into trouble. We're seeing a lot of attention being paid to social media. GoPro has YouTubes. And Red Vines is doing Vines. So here's what we did, and this is the last thing that I'll tell you. We actually said, let's challenge the way that media companies make money, right? We do display ads, we do, newer age media companies actually do custom content, but we're losing a lot of revenue to social networks because these brands are putting all their money into Vine or Twitter or Facebook. So what we decided to do is actually just take a unit. What we decided to do is take actually this kind of unit and just plop it right into our content stream. Because the stream of content, especially on a social site, is where people get their news, it's where they call home, and we feel like the best user experience is to have those ads be great content, which these are great, fun content, be right in the mix, and thereby making a site that we feel has great UX, but actually can pay for itself as well. Great. And here's our unit, just so you can see it. I didn't think this would work. So there's our Vine unit. We partnered with Friskies. They, of course, use Grumpy Cat, which works pretty well for us. And we layered it right into our homepage. We do say it's sponsored by, it's presented by. But this is a great way to give... I love Grumpy Cat. It's a great way to really take control of the UX of your advertisements and really monetize your business. Thanks, everybody.